so much.
I know I recognize a lot of you from Wednesday night. Got a little bit. Well, tonight I'd like to have everybody come up and actually ask your questions up here. That way we make sure we get everybody's questions on video, because we put the presentation online the other day, and part of the questions you can't hear. I mean, we could all hear it here, but you can't hear them, so people didn't know what was being asked and stuff. So I'd just like you to come to the mic today to ask your questions. Today is going to be a little bit different from what we went through the other night. I'll still talk about my project plan of a 5-year contract instead of the 2 that the board and union are talking about. But I want to get a little bit more into the finance today, because that seems to be the questions everywhere. Does the district have the money or not? The union saying they do, the district says they don't. And I've got some slides we'll walk through here about all of this. Kind of put a slide together here to kind of show you dispel one of the other myths. One of the other things going around right now is the board never gave anything, and the union's been the only one giving. Actually, these charts will prove that's not true either. The board has been giving as well. When the board declared impasse last year, the board and the union, they put their offers up at the Illinois Election Labor Relations Board. The board was offering a 1-year contract, the union 2. The retirement was, the district wanted 5% for 3 years, where the union still wanted to continue their 6% for 4. There was going to be a stipend in year 1 from the district, paid for by cutting the 6292 in half. So you can see a little bit of a difference. The union, at that point, both years, they wanted a 2.5% raise for both years.
There's some people that weren't here Wednesday, and you probably didn't even say who you were.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm Lennie Jarratt. I'm the founder of For Our Children's Future. For Our Children's Future is an organization I started back in May to go around the school districts to help educate board members, help educate the community, to help them bring fiscal sustainability to their school districts. My belief is every kid should have access to quality education. The only way you're going to do that is fiscal sustainability. And in Illinois, we all know the state's broke, a lot of the school districts are going broke, and there's a situation we have to be realistic. We have to come up with solutions for the long term, because I don't want to see classes cut, I don't want programs cut, I don't want to see teachers ripped. We lose so many teachers because of the way this contracts and everything are structured right now, and it continues to raise class sizes. We'll get into that a little bit more. From one of the slides in here, you'll see a little bit more of that as we go. But feel free, I know we may not cover everything. There was a question the other day I got after the presentation. Somebody wanted to talk about the pensions a lot more than I covered. I'll cover them just a little bit again today. That can be a whole presentation by itself. So if you're interested in some other issues and some other things, feel free to talk to me afterwards or contact me. I'll be happy to discuss any of these things. You want to set up your own little town hall to talk about pensions, go for it. Actually, I've got a book here, the Illinois Pension Scam, written by Bill Zettler. And he used the TRS numbers and the other retirement numbers from the state and has laid out what the problem is, where the problem is, and actually gives one solution to fixing it. It's not a solution everybody likes, but it is a solution. It's a starting point to start a discussion. And that's kind of the key, is why we're all here today, is we need to have a dialogue. One thing I will tell you, I've heard a couple stories already this week. Several of the school board members are receiving threats. One was spit on the other day. And I know there's some vitriol from both sides, but we have to stop that. We have to have a dialogue with both sides, whether we agree or not. We have to sit down and have an open and honest discussion. That's the only way we're ever going to come to a resolution. But this is about the kids. What's going to happen when those teachers go back into the classroom? Will there be retaliation on the kids? Will there be retaliation towards certain parents? It has happened before. I've seen it. I know it personally about it has happened. That needs to stop from both sides. And I want to say that right up front. It needs to stop from both sides. Sunday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, there is a negotiation session at Park School in Round Lake. Watch Facebook or look around. The teachers union is trying to get a bunch of families out there in support of them, and the rumor is that they are going to try to confront Michael Carbone and Shannon Swigelski. My suggestion is for everybody that wants to go out there, take your cell phones, videotape. That's the best remedy for any of this stuff to stop of it. Go out there with your cell phone and start videotaping exactly what's going on. It keeps the vitriol down because people don't like to get exposed for stuff. And they like to do it in secret. So we go, expose everything, it helps everybody. So back to this. If y'all have some other questions later about me or anything like that, feel free to ask as well. The last final offers right before the strike, you can see both the union now and the district have moved to a 2-year contract. The district has also moved to a 5.75 for 4 years for the first year. If you announce retirement after that, it goes to 3% for 3 years, where the union goes from kept it 6% for 4 years and then wants to go to 5.75. If you'll notice, I'll show you in a few minutes, the 6%, when you compound it over the last 4 years, is actually over 26% raise for the last 4 years. The board wants a hard freeze, which means no raise, no step or lane changes. The union wants a soft freeze, no raises, no step, but they want lane changes the first year. Second year, the district wants to just have a $1,000 stipend, where the union wants, oops, that was a mistake, I forgot, I copied that down, so I'll correct that. The union wants double steps. They want the step for year 1 and the step for year 2 there. So,
Can you explain those gambling changes?
yes, actually I'll get to that just a little bit because I've got some other data. I'll actually show you where I did some other calculations on the pay schedule.
And also, are those percentages each year for 4 years, or is it over 4 years, or, you know, are you?
For the retirement, it's each year for 4 years.
When you put that, that's each year.
That's each year for 4 years. Yeah. And the board has also changed and gone back to the full 6292, which is for their health care. The teachers that are using that are supposed to buy health care insurance with that, but they don't have to. Some of them do, some of them don't. You have to look through the contract to see who's who. But it is not pre-tax dollars, which means they can take that money as basically as an additional part of their salary and spend it on whatever they want to spend it on.
I'm sorry, I can interrupt. Just one quick question. If they announce that they're retiring, at the end of the 3 years or 4 years, do they change their mind, and what happens if they do?
No, they cannot change their mind at that point, right? Most of them will go to work somewhere else or find another, not another district, but another retirement system that they can go work in. You'll see some of them actually go on to teach in junior colleges or in colleges, universities. Some will go, you can go into like the Chicago public schools, theirs is their own separate retirement system. So they can go do that, or some will teach part-time. There's limits on how much they can earn after that. And some will become consultants. Once it's announced, it's set because they're getting that money for that.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to get back into some more budget projections here. For fiscal year 2013, the district is projecting a $1.6 million of deficit spending. That's this year between now and June. Fiscal year 2013-14, $2.2 million deficit spending. There are some questions about this because of everything they've been talking about is about $1 million deficit spending. I talked to the business manager yesterday, and you can see what they have updated their numbers. So they added in the cuts they're going to get in federal grants, the cuts they expect in state funding because they've been hearing, finally getting information from that now, and the differences between the local property taxes.
You got 1.6 million deficit spending. What's that based on? We don't have a contract right now. How can they say it's 1.6?
That's what they're spending this year based on, well, on their budget. Yeah, if their contract comes in different, that's going to the deficit will also go up. The new contract, the board's version of the contract is included in this 2.2 million now. That has been revised, so the board's part is in there.
So the board's part is in there, so
And
if their way is.
yes, any other dollar the board gives up is going to add to this deficit, and it's their number is 1.022% for every dollar they spend. It actually costs because of their stuff they have to put in for retirement and stuff like that. So.
What's, the $1.6 million, how much of the pie is that? Is that 2% or how much over? What's the total number?
Their budget's about $48 million total.
So they're 3% over.
Yeah, so I didn't calculate the percentage, so yeah. Okay, what does this budget deficit means for 2013, this came off the district's website. They're projecting to balance the budget, they would have to cut 37 teacher positions next year. They've already begun some discussions on possibly closing a school. This is one of those areas where they were warned about 5 years ago when they built the other school about, are you planning for the possibility of what happens when your population slows, and they just totally ignored any warnings and continued on straight ahead. So it's one of the areas where the board failed to plan. Any staffing, any increases will also increase things, will increase their costs, will increase the deficit, and will cause them to possibly have to lay off even more teachers. So, and the last thing here is the state of Illinois with their pension problem. There is a very real possibility that they will shift the pension burden back to the local districts, and pretty much, well, right now actually, we've been following that for a while. It pretty much depends on what Michael Madigan wants. Michael Madigan wants the pension shift. He wants the shift to come. He wants it to come back to the local districts. So we'll have to see how that goes. Watch that through now through May.
Is this regardless if they get what they want or if they don't get it? Are they still going to cut 37 positions and go to school?
It depends on what the final outcome is. I can tell you, when I get to my next slide, I don't see how the district can possibly cut 37 staff members, but this is based on what the board's contract is. So if they move any more toward the union, that will mean potentially more teachers getting laid off. Here's where I actually do some calculations here. The average teacher salary in the district was $57,358. Cost factor to the district is 1.022 per dollar. So the average teacher cost to the district is over $58,000. Do the calculation. $2.2 billion deficit divided by 58,000 gives you 38 teachers. Current staff's 331 minus that 38 takes you down to 294 teachers. I don't see how physically possible you can do that, because you're talking raising class sizes to somewhere between 40 and 50 students per class. My question to the union is, they had a teacher the other night, and she said they know there's layoffs coming. My question is, why do they want higher class sizes? Because that's what they're asking for. Every more dollar they ask for, they're saying we want higher class sizes. I don't understand why the union wants higher class sizes. So that's a question that has not been answered. Yes, the union and the district were both invited today. The union has not, well, the union did say she had a family commitment, she couldn't come. The district, I talked to them. Superintendent Carell, oh, that was not working. Okay. The district, I talked to Ellen Carell, business manager yesterday. Ellen Carell was supposedly calling all the board members to find out if they wanted to be here. Obviously, none of them showed up. I never got a response back. So, I'm not sure why they don't want to talk to the public, but they should be. Here is what our class size is for 2012. I've got the chart here. So you can see kindergarten is 19.6, grade 1's 21.7, grade 3 21.9, grade 6 is the highest 27.6, and grade 8 21.4. You know, physically in the buildings, I don't see how they can go to 40 students per class, and I don't know why. That's a question for the union. Why are they arguing for higher class sizes? Because that's effectively what they're doing right now. Okay, went through some more numbers. I wanted to go look at data here. So this data comes from the ISB website off the base salary. And I actually emailed the district this morning because I believe there's something wrong with this data. And if it's not, there's some serious problems, even more than we even know. Because what's happening here, this is the chart. There's 12 teachers that make more than $90,000 a year, as you can see. 6 of them here, or 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, make more than $100,000 a year right now in the district. This is where I think the problem is. I looked at 2011, pulled out the base salary for those exact same teachers. Those are the increases, those are percentage of pay increases. I believe what's happened is the 2011 data should have been 2010 data, because there's no 2010 data on the ISB website, and the district is trying to review this for me, because if that's correct, the pay raises were an average of 29% between 2011 and 2012. I think this is a mistake. Somebody from either the district didn't send the data correctly to ISBE, or ISBE put the data in the wrong place, and have informed the district about this so they can review this, because even my numbers don't come out that high.
Regardless, though, even if it was 2010 data, you're still talking 29% over 2 years.
Yeah, you are, right. So it's still huge raises. In a time when they weren't supposed to be getting big raises, which we'll also get to. Right here. You can see the chart here. This is from the district. This is CPI. This is the average raises based on their salary chart. I asked the question at the last town hall meeting, did these percent raises include the step plus moving to the second salary schedule? The answer I got from the business manager was, yes, it did. She was lying, and I already knew that. That's why I asked the question. I wanted to confirm it. I wanted to see what she would say. And I'm going to prove it to you in just a second. But I want to specifically show you this year, 2010, 2011. If you read online, that's the year where they talk about, the union will talk about the teachers took a pay cut. No, they went from the 3.9% down to 2.75. They took a lower increase, which is not a cut. It's just a lower increase. But watch what I show you here. This is the salary schedule. This are the average raises moving from year to year, from 2010 to 2011, from the 2010 pay chart schedule to the 2011 chart, and a step raise. These are the average raises the teachers would have gotten in those charts. You can see 5.84%, 5.74%, down to 6.8% and stuff throughout here. You asked about lane changes and step changes. This is a lane, so if they get more education, they move to the next lane. A step, they go from here down one level. So based on just the numbers here, average raises were anywhere in the upper 5s to over 6% for the district in the year that they were only supposedly, what they told the public, they were getting 2.75% raises. So
What are the levels?
the levels of the year. I don't know why they didn't use numbers. They've changed it now to actually use numbers, but it's basically year 1, year 2, year 3, up to year 16. Everybody else is off schedule. Takes you you've been in the district 16 years, you're off schedule. Everybody off schedule is guaranteed 4.5% raises every year. This is the chart between 2011 and 2012. This one's a little bit lower. It goes from 3.63, 3.5 down to 4.54, so it's a little lower between 2011 and 2010, but still higher than the 4% they were saying. And the one thing between the two charts I want you to notice, the teachers up here are the younger teachers, the teachers starting out. These are the older teachers down here. Both charts, the younger teachers were getting smaller raises than the teachers that have been there a longer time. Why is this? Nothing performance-based. It was just the younger teachers were feeling the brunt of what the older teachers that have been here longer were just getting more money. And it's driving the cost up more rapidly because of that.
Isn't it because of the back, because they're backloading the contract in the last years when the teachers there, right? So in years 12 through 16, they're saying they want 5.75% or 6% raises every year, so that's why that's high. Is that what those raises are based on the?
No, that doesn't count the retirement at all. None of this counts the 4 years for retirement stuff. This is normal pay raises.
Why do the raises go down as you move to the right and the credentials go up?
It's just the way the chart, the way the union, in most negotiations, I don't know specifically about 46 how it worked, but usually the way it works in negotiation, the union develops this chart in conjunction with the board, but usually the union does the pay schedules, and it's based, the board usually just deals with the percentages, the main percentage. So it's whatever the union decided, that's what they wanted, that's what they're doing. So it doesn't, you have to ask the union specifically why they did it this way.
go out and get a master's degree and you're gonna get a less of a raise?
Well, you go out and get a master's degree, you're moving from here to here, which is not included in these percentages. That's a separate percentage. That is not included in that. I do not include any lane change percentages in this at all, because I don't know when people are actually going to move. So that's an additional step, an additional raise that is not included in these percentages. That's why if you go look at the actual data, which I've been trying to get the accurate stuff from out of the district, the actual raises I think averaged over 7% because of the lane changes and stuff in there, the stuff that I don't have the access to that information to right now. Where am I at? There.
Lennie?
Oh,
I have still a question on previous.
okay.
So just to piggyback off his question there, I'm sorry. I see you've got the different tracks, and then there's different levels and
Right.
those letters. So it could it be that like bottom right, all the way to bottom right?
Right.
In other words, that's whatever master or master's degree.
Yeah, plus 32 hours.
And then as you go down those levels, so potentially somebody could reach that 4.54.
Yes.
Or they did. But they could also be as low as the top number.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not necessarily they're going lower. There are some teachers in that category that track. Or
Right, and that's the raise they would get that year, yes.
okay, so that even within the track, there's different.
Yes, and I'll have a scattergram that shows you where the teachers are in this pay schedule.
Okay.
Wanted to show you this a little bit here. I went through the budgets and audited financial reports, and salaries, you can see, have increased from 2008 from 22 million to 23.8 million. Benefits have gone from 3.5 million all the way up to 4.4 million. So you can see the totals here and the year-over-year increases. The biggest increase was the 2010 to 2011, when the increase was $1.4 million increase between salaries and benefits in that 1 year.
How does the union do that? The board does money or the does money? How does it increase?
Because they're looking at the fund balances. So we'll get to all those too. That's another question that comes up. This I had the other day too as well. Everybody knows the job market's not great, the housing market's not great. So I put this chart back in again. Houses sold in 2012, they closed. 52.5% of them were sold in distress. 2011, it was 53.8%. And active properties right now that are in distress is over 68%. That's in Grayslake D46. So you can see the economy's not good around here. And I don't know why the union doesn't see this. I know they want to blame the board's misspending, which is true. The board has been misspending, but the board can't keep misspending and overspend now on a contract. That's why I proposed a 5-year contract, because it's going to take them at least into the 3rd year before they start really making some changes here to actually have some money to really start being able to give raises again. They can't afford it. They do not have the money right now. Here's the budget. I did just the education fund, not all the funds, because the education fund is the only one that is spent on salaries and benefits. You'll see the number 26 million floating around as a budget surplus. That's the total of all funds, but this is the only one that can be used for salaries and benefits. One thing that stands out in this chart, 2012 and 2011 are based on the district's budgets that are on their website. So there's some fluctuations on that. The 2012 audit has been done, but it's not been online for me to get to yet, or if it did, I didn't see it. These are all 2008 through 2011 are all from the district audits, directly from the ISBE website that the district has to turn in, provide to them every year. You can see their starting and ending balances each year as they do this. The one thing you're going to notice, look at all these transfers. Every year but 2, they have transferred money in. The big one, 2010, they transferred in $4.6 million, is the only year they didn't deficit spend. Every other year, they have been deficit spending if you take out the transfers. That's the district is going broke fast if they don't change things around, and the warning signs have been there, and they have been ignored by the board. And that's part of the problem. Yes, the board is at fault for this, the reason they have no money. The union's got to realize the board has no money, but then we have to fix the board and move everything forward. Because right now we're going in the wrong direction, and nobody seems to have understood this except a few of us that have been warning them for years, and they've ignored it. So that's where we're heading. This is your problem. 2013, you still have a $7 million, you're going to have a $7 million surplus effectively, but they can't spend that, all of it, or they're going to be borrowing short-term money, which is expensive, and you're heading toward a state takeover. And this is the chart that shows you what happens. The district basically gets money twice a year from their property taxes, which is about 70% of where their funds come from. These two arrows right here, this is last May, this is projected for this May. You can see this one's a little over $2 million, this one's just under $2 million. That was done at the $1.6 million deficit. With the deficit, well, this is next year with the $1 million deficit. That does not include the extra $1.2 million of their revised numbers. That number in May now will be $1.2 million less, means they will have under $1 million left in their bank in May. If they increase anything and use that other $1 million, they will be borrowing money. And once you start borrowing money at short-term rates, you're basically in a death spiral at that point, heading for a state takeover. And that's what we have to prevent, and that's why there is no money to give anymore. And I think that's one of the mistakes from looking at the negotiations and where the board is now, where they've come from. I believe the board has actually given pretty much everything it can give, and they've negotiated themselves into a very weak position right now because the union's still wanting more. The district has been giving and giving and giving. The union has given some, but they have not given what the board has given. And I think that's the problem. The board is in a very weak position politically, PR-wise. They've given all they can give, and they're stuck. And that's the problem. So, if we want the board to hold strong, we're going to have to support the board because, yes, they've made mistakes, but the union has to realize increasing class sizes and making the district go bankrupt is wrong. And they can't. We don't want that to happen. It actually hurts all the children, too. The other thing I mentioned the other night, I went and got the chart. The bond repayment schedule for all the debt for the district, these numbers, 7 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, 11 million, that also will affect when they levy. Those are automatic. Your taxes are going up because that's automatic. It's going to raise your taxes every single year because that's got to be paid for. But that also affects the rest of the district's budget and how they're spending. So you're looking at, in a few years here, they've got to basically add almost $4 million in debt in the next few years that they have to pay each year. They're not even looking at forgetting, remembering, or even paying attention that they backloaded these bonds. And it's coming due very quickly. It's another area here that even the union is not talking about or looking at. The future is not good if we keep spending money. This is the scattergram. Hold on. Okay, Jim?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I haven't heard you guys mention mediation at all. The union side or the teacher side is that they've agreed to what the mediator has put forward as a compromise settlement. Does federal make mediation?
Yes.
Okay. Well then why aren't you guys talking at all about that? What is the federal guy not seeing, or why would they not be understanding the situation that is dire as you're saying? Is this the federal government?
It's the, yeah.
Oh.
You'd have to ask them because, I don't know.
Federal government made any sense.
The mediator is looking at it trying to come to a 50-50 split, but if he's not, I don't know why he's not looking at these numbers, what's going on. You'd have to ask the district because I don't know. It's closed session. We don't
I
know.
understand the district agreed to go into mediation.
Yes.
So that has some relations background.
The mediator's point is the media halfway.
Well, I'm just saying,
They don't
record
agree.
what your guys' position is on the mediation aspect as well.
They don't live here, it doesn't matter to them.
Unfortunately, I don't know what the mediator has brought up and talked about. I know there was another thing on the district's web email they sent out today, whatever, that talked about how much the mediator's proposal was going to cost. My actual contention is with the federal mediator If the union is actually talking about what the mediator has said and the district has not, then they want to negotiate in public. Let's have a public negotiation. Let's bring the union and the district together with the media if they want. And let's have the negotiations in public. If they want to negotiate through the media, through the papers, let's do it. Let's just do it in public.
That's kind of what you were hoping for today, but it didn't.
Oh, I'm challenging them to do that. Yes, I hope they do. I want them to come do that. I want them to come talk because they need to see what everybody else is looking at and what everybody else wants to see too. So if they'd have been here, we'd have done a little bit different because I'd have had them present more of their stuff. I'm presenting as much as I know from my research. But unfortunately, we don't know what the mediator's proposal was or where it's at or anything because it's closed session. This is the scattergram that shows you where everybody is in the chart you were asking earlier. So we have 10 teachers here, new teachers. You have the chart here, MA plus, MA8, MA32, I don't know why. So I got this from the district, it was out of order, and I forgot to rearrange it, but MA32, 3, all the way down to here. There's 43 teachers that are off schedule, which means they get 4.5% increases every single year. Part of those are going to be in the retirement track already as well. They're getting 6% a year for the last 4 years of their too. I believe the district stated the other day there are 19 teachers that can go onto retirement track right now. The number I got when I FOIA'd this last summer was there were 6 already in retirement track. So there's potential for a lot more to go into retirement.
Those 19 teachers retiring, how much is the steady savings in their salaries?
I don't know. The district would have to tell you because I don't know exactly where they are. I know they're off schedule, but I won't know which lane they're in. So I'd have no way to calculate that, what it's going to save you.
Because it is a savings, because the retirement is right off
Well,
the state, correct?
Yes, it's a savings for the local property taxes. It's not a savings for the taxpayer. So, yeah.
But it's a reverse effect though, because
Yeah.
in the end, it's just going to give the local districts less money because they have to get more out of their pension.
Right, and then they're talking about pushing that pension burden right back down on the taxpayer right now. So we're looking at actually paying that pension burden coming up here too.
Why
So.
isn't that privatized? Why isn't the union paying the pension? I mean, they're paying union dues.
Yep, this is the way it's been negotiated. It's been the way it's in the state constitution.
How can they get reversed? I mean, is there anything we can do to get that reversed?
Call the legislators. My guess is there's several ways it's going to go. The pension shift is either going to happen and they're going to raise taxes here in Illinois again. The other way is that there is a plan, a hybrid plan that starts moving some people to 401ks. I don't think that's going to be realistic. I think the course is going to take, the state's going to do the pension shift, change the pension law. The unions are immediately going to sue and send it into the courts for the next 5 to 10 years, and nothing's going to be resolved, and Illinois is going to continue down their deficit hole more and more. TRS alone, by 2045, they are in debt. Their deficit right now, what has to be paid in, is $645 billion by 2045. That's how much the unfunded liability is right now, between now and then. Just on the teachers' retirement system, there's 5 pension systems for state employees. So yeah, it's not going the right direction. There is a thought out there, and it got brought up during the lame duck session. One of the other avenues that I believe the union is trying to negotiate to prevent is the state cannot go bankrupt. The pension fund is not part of the state. It is not guaranteed by the state. They tried to move that away, to do that during the lame duck session. They tried to get the state to guarantee the pension fund. The pension fund itself can go bankrupt. And that's an avenue some people are looking at right now, because then that changes the whole dynamic. It's out of the legislature, it goes into the courts, and everything will completely change. And I think that's one where the unions are trying to make sure it does not happen right now, because they don't want it to go into courts, because they know they're going to lose. I mean, they have to. We can't physically sustain what's happening. Okay. This is my 5-year contract. So what I'm proposing is we get rid of the salary schedules altogether. No more salary schedules. Gives the district more flexibility. They can do what they need to do. There's already SB7, there's a couple other bills that they have to start looking at how they can do some things with merit pay and stuff like that. Those are going to be negotiated with the unions again. But if you get rid of the salary schedule, that's the first step in being able to do some other things, give the district flexibility. I also took out the degrees. Continuing education, the district is already paying for continuing education. They're paying a huge percentage of their education anyway. Why are we giving them a raise permanently? Let's give them a bonus, say 2%. That can be, we can change those numbers depending on what we want to do. But give them a bonus. We're rewarding them for continuing education. But we've already paid for a lot of that education. Why do we want a permanent raise there? And the end of career salary bumps. We can't sustain those 4 years at 6%, at any percent. It used to be 20%. They actually changed that. They stopped, cut it back to 6%. Yeah, a few years ago, it was 20% raises for the last 4 years. That was, I believe, 2006 or 2007 that got changed. I think it was 2006. I don't remember the exact year, but now there's a penalty. The district has to pay a penalty if they go over the 6%. But you can see what I did here. You get those charts back there earlier where the young teachers that are struggling are the ones getting the smallest raises. The teachers that have been there forever making the most money are the ones getting the biggest raises. The problem we have is young teachers, they come into the profession, 60% of them leave their school district or their profession within the first 5 years. 40% leave the profession. Some come back, but it ends up being 1 out of 4 teachers leave the profession, and the biggest reason is money. They're sitting there coming out with all these student loans and they're struggling. When you've got teachers down here that have been, making $80,000 are getting 5, 6, 7% raises, they're getting almost none. So my proposal is actually to reverse the paradigm. Start paying the starting teachers more. Starting this year, give them a 0.5% raise, freeze everybody else, and then gradually as the district becomes more fiscally sustainable again, start increasing raises for everybody, keeping the lowest paid teachers, start giving them a little bit better raises to keep them in the profession. Because we've got some really good young teachers coming out of college and stuff now. We need to keep them here. So this is kind of the paradigm I have. Is a little bit, it's out of the box, I know, getting rid of salary schedules. Unions don't like that. But it's something different. And it's something that Zion Benton actually did last year. They actually went down to IASB and actually presented what they did last year. I was up there helping with that. Quickly, before your question, I want to introduce Jason Ellis. He was actually up there last year in Zion. He was one of the people, the community members that went out on the strike, across from the strike line, protesting every morning 7 to 8 o'clock, telling the teachers to go back to work. Zion was in the same position. They didn't have money. So, Jason, if you'd like to say a few words. If you don't want to say a few words, that's fine too.
I mean, I would just say that.
Go to the mic.
I guess we're going tomorrow.
I would just say that you talk to your neighbors. You get obviously there's not a lot of people here. I mean, when it comes down to it, so there's thousands and thousands of registered voters out there that should have a say in this matter and your money. Talk to your neighbors. It only takes you to talk to a couple of neighbors and have them talk to a couple of neighbors, and then before you know it, everybody's out there. One of the things that one of my best friends that I grew up with is a teacher in Waukegan. I don't have a problem with teachers making millions of dollars. I mean, give them all $1 million. I don't care. If there's money for it. There isn't. There's no money for it. The money is gone. It's coming out of our pockets. Most of these teachers, I don't know how it is in District 46, but where I am, the teachers don't even live in the district. 90% of the teachers that teach in my district don't even live there. So they're not paying the taxes. Matter of fact, 45% of the teachers in my district live in Wisconsin, where you have a governor up there who's curbed all this. And now they have surpluses up there, and down here it's just going the opposite way. So the point is not that we don't want the teachers to make money. The point is, hey, I want to make money too. You guys want to make money. You guys want to get huge increases in whatever profession you're in. But the bottom line is either your company or who you're working for, they don't have the money, so you can't get it. I mean, I'd love to give my kids new cars and all this kind of stuff, but if you can't budget for that stuff, sorry. So, I mean, one of the big things I would just say is just continue to reach out to your immediate neighbors. I mean, there's no reason if you're living in a neighborhood like Grayslake. I'm in a subdivision that's similar to where my friends live out here. There's no reason you can't talk to 2 or 3 people and at least get them somewhat involved. Even if they don't have kids in the district, it's raising their mortgages, it's raising their property taxes. All this stuff is going to come to an end at some point. I mean, the money's gone in Illinois, it's gone. And the state's going to continue to make it worse. The unions keep saying, well, the state keeps cutting funding, the state's cutting funding. Well, no kidding. They're cutting funding because you have these massive pensions that the state can't afford. And not to mention, you know, all the other crookedness that goes on in Chicago and everywhere else, but there's just no more money. So try to get some of your neighbors involved. Again, when it comes time for re-election, I'm a firm believer. We have a couple of good board members now, but I'm still a firm believer in not letting them sit there for too long. I think there should be term limits across the board. I mean, these people who have been board members for 20 years, great, you've done your good job. You know, you think they're doing a good job, it's time for them to go. It's time for new people to come in and with new ideas. These people can't sit in there forever because they become friends. You become friends with all these teachers and the union people, and then next thing you know it, they're voting for them constantly. So that's just a few of the things I would say.
Thanks. Get a question real quick.
I was wondering, how much money does the district give to these people? I guess I versus Oklahoma Bay,
It's a formula, but they basically spend $110,000 a year is what it's been the last couple of years, and I didn't put that on there. That's what they're proposing again this year. It's $110,000, and it's kind of first come, first serve. If they go above that, then it's a prorated formula to make sure everybody gets a portion of that. So it has been as high, I've seen as early in the contract, $180,000 a year to pay for continuing education. But then Zion, they got rid of the salary schedule altogether as well. They did, I believe it was, any teacher up through 14 years got like a 3% raise. From 15 through 17 or 18 was like a 2% raise. Anybody that's been there longer than 18 years was like a 1% raise. They did something staggered like that with a 3-year contract. But they too got rid of the salary schedule. The longevity piece became a bonus. Things like that. So things totally changed up there the same way they convinced their union to go with it. It was totally out of the box after their strike lasted 4 days. So.
This proposed teacher contract framework you have, that's your own idea?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry I got here a little late. What is your background? I know you used
Yeah.
like 15 minutes.
Right. Lennie Jarratt, the organization I started back in March was For Our Children's Future, and we want to help school districts become fiscally sustainable. This plan was developed a little bit with the Zion last year when I was actually running for office. I went up there to help the community and stuff. So I've had ideas. I've got a pension reform plan and everything as well too. I lost in the primary. But now I'm just going back to trying to bring fiscal sustainability. For Our Children's Future is now active in about 25 school districts in the state, including Elgin U46, which is the second largest school district in the entire state.
So a question regarding this framework, we're talking about possible bonuses for those teachers with higher degrees.
Yes.
Would any of the bonuses you're proposing, would that be performance-based or just because of seniority or tenure?
Just because of the degree bonuses. That's something the district, there's nothing, I'm not talking about merit pay or any.
Now, I'm no expert, but this is my point of contention would not your framework necessarily, but whoever the budget is like. If you think about the real world, I mean, we all have jobs. Last time I checked, my job was performance-based.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Performance-based bonuses. Is there any sort of metrics available that anyone has proposed for teachers as to how to go about introducing that?
There was a new law passed a couple years ago, and all the districts have to start working on a way of starting doing some more merit-based pay, but it won't be the full thing. To my knowledge, I'm not sure where that process is now, but that will be negotiated with the union. But there are some of the bigger school districts. I know Los Angeles has just put in a type of merit pay system, and some of the other ones. It's starting to become more prevalent, but it is not here yet.
Well, the manual has introduced, I believe, something similar.
Yeah, I believe he did try to, well, his was based off of the state law that changed. He was trying to start introducing that already as well, which is coming, but we're not quite there yet. So I went this route because this is kind of more traditional, but not really traditional. This is kind of the way everybody's been right now. Right. That's going to be something that's going to have to be, because you're going to have to take into all sorts of information. It's a lot more complex. Yes, it would be good to do some merit pay rather than just because how long they've been there, but it's not happening right now, unfortunately.
So one of the things the teachers union in Illinois is against that for is they're saying that the teachers in Waukegan or Chicago, the people of Zion, the places that are a little more poverty stricken, they can't do merit-based because they're teaching kids that are at such a lower level academically. So I see that. I mean, I have a best friend who teaches in Waukegan, and it's hard. It's hard for him to meet test scores. You can't base the teachers in Waukegan versus the teachers who are in Lake Forest.
You ever watch that movie Stand and Deliver?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's always ways.
Yes, there's ways to do it, and some of the ways they can do it is internal testing. There's a lot of different metrics that I've looked at. You can do testing at the beginning of the year to the end of the year and base it just on what that one teacher is doing. There's a lot of ways to get around that. But there's a school in the south side of Chicago that's in, I believe it's in the Pilsen area. About half their kids graduate from school in the surrounding area of Chicago public schools. That area has a school now, Cristo Reyes. It's more for Hispanics. That school, you go into that school, every kid in that school now graduates and goes to college. So it can be done. It's a lot of it's attitude. A lot of it's attitude with the teachers, a lot of it with the unions. Every kid can learn if they're given the right tools. Some need more help than others, absolutely. And if they're in poverty, they need different types of instructions. There's whole studies on the curriculum. Which curriculums work best in the middle class suburbs like Hunter and Grayslake versus Zion and Waukegan and even Round Lake. So there's lots of dynamics that goes into that. So, oh, right.
I'm going back a few steps.
Okay.
Property taxes, we talked a little bit about that. How much are they proposing to raise our property taxes?
Well, in December, the board actually voted to basically freeze the property taxes, which isn't really a freeze, because I know it takes a little bit. The papers all said it was a freeze because they levied the same amount as they levied the year before. They didn't get the full levy from last year, so effectively for the ed fund and stuff, they actually raised taxes by $200,000, which will get spread across everybody. But again, the bonds went up. So the amount going to the bonds is going to be automatically done. So everybody's property taxes are still going up. I think their figure was still about $100 or so per house. We'll find out shortly what that's going to be as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. But yeah, this year it's actually going to be better than it has been in other years. They're not going to. It's usually going up $300-400 a year. Some places around, depending on your house, has gone up $800 to $1,000. I know people where their payments for their property taxes is actually higher than the principal on their mortgage, which is insane. There's areas I know down in Barrington. There's one business because it's commercial property. His property taxes, he paid, I think, $45,000. He's paying $15,000 a year in property taxes. Every 3 years, he's rebuying his own building because of the property taxes. It's insane.
Can you explain a teacher that is off schedule? I understand the retirement track, possibly part-time, but what would make those 43 teachers that are off schedule?
It is everybody that has been in the district for more than 16 years of seniority. So starting year 17 on, they are off schedule. Any more questions before we can move on?
I could see where the teachers might have an argument about against the bonus for the masters, being that now that I've got a master's degree, I'm more valuable. I've got a new set of tools that I can use, not just for the 1 year, and I'm going to share those tools with you from now forever. So I'm entitled to. I'm a better teacher for the next 30 years, so I'm entitled to that increase as opposed to just a bonus. Now, if you carry that logic also through, you can also look at it each year you have experience as a teacher, So we're gonna pay you based on that year of experience. That's why you're getting an increase. This is just not thinking out of the box.
Right.
So if you look at a year of experience to a teacher who's been there 1 year, that experience, 1-year teacher, they've learned a lot. They've become a much better teacher. A person after the second,
Right.
each year, they've learned a lot and become a much more valuable teacher. Now take a teacher who's in there for 25 years and they've got 1 year of experience. They haven't really gotten that much better. I mean, they're doing the same plan every day. They just look at their calendar and say, what did I show them for the last 25 years as a sample? Okay, I got July or whatever, it's September 16th. I got the same plan. I'm going to get the same spiel. They're not really, every year, their experience and their value as a teacher hasn't really gone up. So I would really take this to the extreme and give teachers at the low end, 10% increases, and at the high end, 0.5%. And really make it, based on what you're really adding to the.
Yeah, I've seen studies, I don't have them right offhand, but I've seen studies where they talk about the effectiveness of a teacher, and usually they come into their own after about 4 years. So that 4th year through a while, and then it's up to the teacher whether they're continuing to improve. But there is some where they become complacent and stuff like that as you go forward. But the younger years really are the most effective once you hit that 4-year mark from the studies I've seen. That's not always true. You can't generalize that. But yeah, the master's degree and stuff, just because you get another master's, does it really mean you're more effective at teaching, or did you get in the same subject matter? How many masters do you need to teach K through 8? I mean, that's another question. Do you need a PhD to teach kindergarten through 8th grade? I mean, that's another question that you have to look at.
They might take that personally.
They might take that personally, but it's the value of, we value education, but there's also, you have a limited amount of money. And that becomes the issue. You have to, based on the market, what's the value in that degree for teaching this certain class and stuff? I mean, you got a PE teacher, that's been all we're talking about, making over $100,000 for teaching a PE. Is that really the value of a PE teacher is $100,000 for K through 8? I mean, that's kind of that becomes the dilemma there.
Do you know of any studies where they're saying, you said in year 4 they really come into their own and they're most effective? Is there any studies to say as they get higher in their degrees, PhDs, masters, that's more effective?
Most of the studies I have seen about that pretty much come to the conclusion that additional degrees do not make them more effective on the whole. I don't have those right offhand, but those that I have seen, it doesn't show a marked improvement based on another degree.
It makes sense what you're saying. I mean, if you're a union member and you're a baggage handler for American Airlines, right? You're college educated, and then you go out and get your PhD and you go out and get your master's. You're still a baggage handler. Why should we pay you more? You're still handling bags.
Right. It needs to be based on the job you're doing and stuff like that. I mean, there's some places where the more education you get, the better. But it's not always the case, and there's examples of that. You can't generalize. It needs to be looked at on a case-by-case, which goes back to the other gentleman talking about merit pay, performance-based pay, some of those things where those should come into play that kind of help that. You can find out. But right now, just because it's automatic doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
I mean, is there anything to say that, teaching, I don't know, in grade school, settings, is there anything to say that teaching first grade is a little less difficult than teaching 4th grade or 3rd grade? Try to stratify like that?
I've never seen anybody try to do that at any given level. I don't know if that's ever even been looked at ever again. I don't think there's that much difference though between the two. Honestly, I think it's I don't think there's a huge difference in skill level based on that. A lot depends on the students you've got. A lot depends on the area you're in.
Different skill levels as well. I mean, teaching 1st grade is not the same thing as teaching 6th grade.
No, but
teacher to be good has to have other skills that the 6th grade teacher doesn't. And as far as degrees go, it doesn't take more than a bachelor's degree to teach. But at the same time, I think if you have more degrees in your school, that's a bigger influence not just on that classroom, but on the whole school. Other teachers that teach 3rd and 4th grade, that teacher with that degree improves everything, not just her or his classroom. But that's not to say that every time something gets mad.
Right, and also depends on what the school is doing as far as mentoring younger teachers and stuff like that. So there's lots.
More complex than that simple.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. Absolutely, it's more complex than that. But we don't have so much time. So, but yes,
Right.
There's lots of complexities in all of this stuff with the whole property tax levy, all of that. There's a lot more complexities everywhere throughout this that we can delve into and just go down the rabbit hole for hours if we wanted to. So, here, this comes back to how I've proposed some of these raises, how to fix some of the budget issues and stuff with the district and stuff that they've got right now. The first was looking at the state aid formula and what the district did to freeze the levy in December, the end of career salary bumps, and then healthcare. These are the three main ones. There's a lot more areas where we can look at for cuts and ways to save money within the district and stuff like that. There's a lot more in there, a lot more they've been given and stuff already. So, but I'm just going through the three. These are kind of the quick hits that you can really have an effect very quickly on. The PMA projections that the district, that PMA gave the district, the PMA was their financial advisor that gives them 5-year projections on everything, walks through their finances, and they do this for school districts across the state. It's the largest, I believe, management firm for money. Actually, they manage all the funds for the district and their investments as well. And you're going to notice here the revenue is increasing from state aid in 2013. It will decrease again in 2014 and then jump again in 2015. This is the projections with them freezing the levy. With them not freezing the levy, this number would have changed by another $400,000. It would have gone down to $5.4 million. And then I don't have that chart with me. It's in the board packets. I talk about it a little bit more here. I took the numbers off of their presentation. If they increase the levy, next year they would have a $1.4 million deficit. This goes back to the original projection. So 1.4 million, this was before they added the other stuff in, so this is kind of a little bit out of date, but it gives you the same numbers. You just add 1.2 million to it. If they had done this with the levy, it'd be 2.6. Now, with freezing the levy, next year they will have a deficit of $1 million. As we know now, based on the revised numbers, that's going to be 2.2 million. 2015, they would actually have a $189,000 surplus because of the increase in the state aid. 2016 here, they would go to a $1.4 million surplus. You know, effectively you have to add in that 1.2 million now. So even in 2016, that goes down to $200,000 now, based on what the district's contract and their new, putting all the updated numbers in. So based on the information that we had, that the board had at the time in December, freezing the levy actually was more beneficial to the district at the time. If the board goes in December now and raises the levy again, they're effectively going to give up that $1 million. So they're going to be able to pick up another $350,000, $400,000, but they're giving up $1 million. Here's real quick.
How does it work if they pass the levy and then they agree to pay?
They could do that too. That's actually the best way of doing it. But with this scenario, with the EAB dropping, actually they could do the other way and take advantage of the state law that would allow them to get more money. The correct way to do it is to levy and then abate back all that's not new construction. The district with their $200,000 increase most likely will capture all of the new construction anyway, because there's almost no new construction. And if you go back and listen to the levy presentation, only one person in that room understood it, talked about it, the board didn't do it, and that was Mike Carbone. He explained this, he's been explaining this every single year, how to do this to make sure you capture all the new construction every year. The board hasn't done anything. It's actually, this last levy hearing shows how bad the administration is in the district. They had no contingency plan, even though this had been talked about for years. They had no clue. They got lost once the levy was defeated. They had nowhere to go. Mike tried to explain it to them again, and they still voted for the same levy, which I think they'll get lucky because the way they did it, they're still going to capture the new money. But effectively, when your EAB is going up, that is the correct way to do it. And the administration had no clue how to do that. Carbone was the only one that understood the process well enough to talk about and explain it. So.
Basically, you're saying if they increase the tax levy, then the state gives them less money.
Yes.
If they leave the tax levy at what it is, the state will give them.
Correct. If the EAV is dropping. When the EAV increasing, that formula changes and they would actually lose money. So you also have to watch how the EAV and how the housing market is going at the same time. Our EAV is still going to be negative probably for at least 3 more years because they use a 3-year average. And this year, was the other night said that projected they'll be 12% this year negative on our EAV. Total EAV is going to be 12%. So next year, unless the market really turns around, you're looking at probably still 8 to 10% negative growth in the EAV, and then gradually coming back up. So you're looking at least 4 years before the EAV goes positive. They could do this for another 3 years and be fine, and depending on, we'll also have to see how it goes. The other issue is with the EAV dropping, the district has a limiting rate. They are going to hit, they were going to hit that probably next year when they could not levy any more money. Which, by doing this, the district actually has more flexibility next year now, because now they can go up and probably not hit that limiting rate next year, but it probably will be the following year. So they've actually bought themselves more flexibility for the district going forward, and they haven't capped themselves and put themselves in a position where they're really going to be in trouble going forward. So,
with the state of the financial situation that it is, and that increasing the levy, and getting more in state aid, what is the guarantee that the state is going to pay more state aid?
There is no guarantee. But based on what everything is happening, it appears what's going on with the financial situation down there, the state's going to make some changes. It's almost impossible for them to lower their fund. I forgot the exact name of it. I can't remember the name of the fund balance, but 6119, I think, per student foundation level. I don't believe they'll do that. With an election year coming up next year, if they lower the foundation level, I mean, people will go livid that they're not giving as much money to education. It appears what they're going to do is probably they're going to raise taxes or make the tax increase they did last time permanent. There's already a move to go to a progressive income tax in Illinois. That's already been introduced in the legislature. I think there's going to be some changes there so that they're going to continue to give somewhere close to where they're at now. They projected this at an 89% funding from the state. It's possible that it will change a little bit, but when you're talking $1 million, it's not going to go to $1 million. So there's some play there. Yeah, it's not a guarantee, but the state still likes to fund education too. So, but it's just why the state aid formula was created was to actually shift the burden from the state to the local property owners. That's why the formula is the way it is. It actually, everybody talks about it's local, but it's a state sanctioned tax. It's just a way for them to shift the burden, continuing to shift the burden to the local level. So they're not responsible for it anymore. So it just helps give them more revenue to keep spending. Did a couple of examples here about the end of career bonuses and what it actually cost us. A teacher, making $75,000, announces they're retiring. Their 6% per year takes them to $94,000 in that 4-year period. They're going to retire. If they at the max formula 75%, they'll retire at $71,000 a year. If you have a teacher making $100,000, same 6% every year, they're going to retire at almost $95,000 a year. As soon as they get their 3% COLA a couple of years, yes, and they're going to get 3 up. Right now, it's 3% compounded every single year after they've retired, starting at age 67, but they make that up. So effectively, you're going to pay them more to sit at home than you are going to be to teach, and all they've done is shift the tax burden now from the property tax owner to the taxpayers of Illinois. And if they put the pension shift back, then it is coming back to the taxpayer again, where we're going to end up paying this again, and we're going to be paying more teachers to sit at home to make more. Right now, there's 44,000 retirees that make more in retirement than they ever put in to the system to start with. So you can't sustain a system where more money is going out that's coming in. It's impossible to do. So changes have to be made. This is, it has pension spiking on it. People don't like that word, but that artificial inflation of salaries at the end of your career, some people call it pension spiking, and you can see why. This is due to that pension spiking. You can see that chart cranking up high. That's just in 2010. 2011 was supposed to be another over $1 billion additional on here. So you're looking at the difference without that artificial inflation at the end of the career was $2.56 billion in 2010, where it was 3.8 with it. That's $1.3 billion difference. That's driving the state into bankruptcy and these retirement systems into bankruptcy, and that's why it has to end. And some of these local districts have to take the stand and start saying, we can't do this anymore. We have to start doing this. I was one district that actually started that process. Quincy, it's a QSD 172, I believe, has already unilaterally ended all end-of-career bonuses for all non-union staff and started the process of negotiating with their staff to end it for even their unionized staff. So it's starting to happen. More districts need to take the lead and start doing it because we're bankrupting the state and the taxpayers. That's why one person every 7 minutes is estimated is leaving the state of Illinois. It was one person every 10 minutes just 2 years ago. So that's increasing, and the more people leave, the more the tax burden just falls on the rest of us that are left. And so we are going to end up having to pay more and more. It's way out of hand, and that's why the state's been warned that they could be junk bond status here very shortly if they don't do something about the pensions. That's why I suspect they will do something this spring. What it's going to be, we'll still have to wait and see, but they have to act. They cannot continue the rate they're going without doing something. I still suspect it's going to go into the courts after that, but at least I think something will be done. This is kind of a brief overview of 10 things you probably don't know about Illinois state pensions. I know I went through them the other day. It's on the website as well. Taxpayers have contributed more, not less, than the 1995 50-year pension funding law required. So, and since 2001, it's been 230% more. What that does, whenever you hear the argument that the state has not been paying their fair share into, they've been stealing from the pensions, technically it's correct, but factually it's not. What they did was, the state has put in the money, if the law was still as it was in 1995, the state has put in more money than it was required to put in. But they increased pension benefits, kept increasing the benefits and adding more people, adding more things to it. That is what they have not funded. So technically they haven't put all the money in they're supposed to keep it fully funded. Factually, what they didn't put in was the money for the increased benefits that they provided. So when you hear that argument, that's what the real part of that is. So you get the real facts. The other argument you hear a lot is teachers don't get Social Security. A lot of the state pension systems don't get Social Security. As you saw before, most of them, a lot of them are going to retire at almost the same pay they were making when they were done. And the average right now is 4 times Social Security. So one thing I always do, if somebody talks about they're not getting Social Security, I'm like, fine, I'll take your retirement, you take mine. No big deal. You can have Social Security, I'll swap with you. You know, that's not going anywhere because they know their retirement's actually better than what Social Security will be. Sick leave. Most of them can build up sick leave until they retire, then use that sick leave to pad their retirement. 132,000 years of sick leave has been used for credited TRS to add additional service that increases their benefits in the formula when they retire. Like I said before, 44,000 retirees have annual pensions greater than their total contributions. TRS liability is so high because teachers are paid more in Illinois than the surrounding states. Illinois is #1 ranked for teachers. Teachers want to come here because of the benefits and pensions and everything they get. So like I said, Waukegan, when Jason was talking about Waukegan, they're not the greatest district around. They had 200 openings a few years ago. They had 5,000 teachers apply for those positions. So if Illinois teachers had the same salary and pension schedule as Wisconsin, we'd save $4 billion a year, and that would make the additional payment for the increased benefits every year. 1970 is when they put the pension guarantee in the Illinois Constitution. If the law had stayed exactly the same as it was in 1970, the pension funds would have a surplus right now. So you can see where the problems have been coming from. It's coming from the state legislature, a lot of it, adding additional benefits and stuff, and then not funding those additional benefits. But that's where the biggest problem is coming from. And you're going to notice the teachers' unions have given the politicians of both parties more than $50 million in contributions since 1995. So they're buying favors, getting the extra increased benefits, and the taxpayers are stuck with paying for it. So there's a cycle here as a problem that we have to deal with. And like I said, that data comes out of the Illinois Pension Scam book by Bill Zettler. If anybody is looking for a copy, actually I have these for sale if anybody wants a copy. But it's all laid out, all the facts, all the data directly from TRS and SERS and the other pension funds. All the data is there if you want to read it.
Can you just go back and explain 6 clearly to me? Just want to make sure. Just break. 44,000 retirees have annual pensions?
Yes.
Or pension funds?
Annual pensions, what they receive each year is greater than their contributions that they put, the money they put in over their entire career.
So in 1 year?
Yeah, in 1 year.
How does that happen?
Because the state law allows it. It's insane. There's one in here, I forgot the exact, I'll go look, but Mary Curley, who is a superintendent down in Hinsdale, I believe, 181, her estimated lifetime pension will be over $10 million. She put in $400,000 over her career into her pension. So that gives you an idea of how that's happening. The third way that the district can start saving money is something, again, they've been told about this for over 5 years to start doing this. They've gone through contract negotiations now. So this is the second contract negotiations they've gone through, and yet they've done nothing about correcting their healthcare costs, trying to make it cheaper. They've had a couple of presentations. They have not gone out to bid for this. Finally got presentations this year. And you can see the estimates. One of them showed about savings of about $300,000 first year, and then in 3 to 5 years up to $5 million. And one estimate was even higher than that. Self-insured, if they want to go that route, savings would be $100,000 first year, and then like over $1 million per year. Getting into years 2 and 3, it'll gradually increase. The one piece that is holding a lot of that up, from my perspective, is that 6292. Benefit they're giving to about 1/3 of the teachers get that. It's 138 teachers, I believe, get that they can use for whatever. Some of them are limited to health insurance, some of them aren't right now. Should be limited, but those teachers are going to be the hindrance to switching health insurance costs and bidding those out properly to start lowering the cost, because they know that the money they're getting is actually money they can use, and it's easier for them to just take the money than it is to switch, because 1/3 more teachers onto the healthcare plan would significantly lower the cost for the district. And right now, that's not happening. Other day, y'all asked me about contact information. Anybody that signed up for the list got this list already. Here's the email addresses for the school board and the superintendent and for the teacher union president. You should contact them, let them know your thoughts. If anybody wants to, show up tomorrow afternoon at Park School before 5 o'clock when the negotiations are going to start again. There's going to be a bunch of people there. I said the union's trying to get as many people out there as possible already too. But be there. I heard of one gentleman this week, actually, he took his kids to school with signs. They walked across the picket line, stood in front of the school for a while with a sign, "We want to learn." You know, that's what we're looking at here. It is. This is the kids are the ones getting the hurt the most through all of this strike. Those are the ones this is hurting. The contract negotiations are just going to hurt them more based on these budgeting numbers, because looking at these numbers, the teachers are arguing for higher class sizes. It's unsustainable. It shouldn't be happening. We have to let them know they can't keep doing this. Yes, the board is at fault too, because the board did not pay attention and did not spend well, but we can't fix that right now. But we can't spend more while we're in the process of fixing it. That just perpetuates the problem. Yeah, you can't spend your way out of debt. You're just going to get deeper in debt. You can't do it. So both sides have been wrong, but we need to fix it. And the only way to fix it is have the union not want raises as much right now. Let's come to a reasonable solution, even if it's the 5-year contract. Come to some type of 2-year agreement. Because right now, really, the 3rd year or 4th year of any of these changes are when it's really going to start having an effect for the district, so the district actually has more money.
Going back to the kids are the ones that are most affected. I read the patch, and I know you post on it every once in a while to give backs to them. But oh my gosh, the venomous comments there on the patch are incredible. And I'm thinking, what's going to happen when the strike is over? Are parents going to look strange at teachers? Are teachers going to look strange at parents? I mean, it goes back to what you said. We have to talk reasonably to each other, even though you don't agree 100%. But I mean, this hatred going around has to stop.
Right, that's why we got to have meetings like this. We got to be talking in person. We need to go out there, go out on the strike line, talk to the teachers. I mean, we have to start a dialogue. And yeah, the patch is a horrible place for so many anonymous people out there that just want to start yelling and screaming and calling everybody names. It's wrong. Both sides need to stop. But we got to start a dialogue. That's the only way we're ever going to come to a real resolution.
Yeah, that's not a good dialogue.
No, not on the patch, no.
What's the likelihood that you get your ideas into negotiations at this late stage of the game?
It happened in Zion at this stage. My guess is realistically, this board and their makeup, based on the last few years, probably won't even consider what I'm talking about. But my hope is the teachers and some of them start talking about it, or some other school districts start talking about it. But in the future, this starts to help. Some of the ideas for the cuts, yeah, the district is actually going to probably look at some of those. The contract, I'm guessing they're going to ignore this year because, you know, there are some political factions on the board. If you've watched the boards in the last couple of years, you know, the board majority is very using they have a political agenda. They refuse to look at any of the ideas coming from the other side almost all the time. And Carbone, myself, Shannon Smigelski, before she was on the board, we're all warning them of some of these signs. Other board members, other people in the district have been warning them of these exact same signs. They've done nothing. They even killed the Community Finance Committee this year. The board majority killed it. And it's being used as a political weapon. Actually, Ellen Corral, if you don't know, if you watch the hirings in that district, it almost appears she's using the district as her jobs program for family and friends. How many board presidents are now working in the school district? One of them just quit. He got hired, he resigned from the board to go on to work for the school district, and then the case got sent to the state's attorney because of the improper hiring. There's another school board member, former board president, that's now working in the district. One of them, her husband works in the district. Their kids have worked in the district. Some of the administrators' kids have been working in the district. There's a problem there in this administration of the district, and they're not listening to the citizens. They're running the program, running it however they want, and not caring about the district.
Don't you think it'd be a better idea if they go with a 1-year contract right now, even if they got a hard freeze and whatever else, and then get everything done and over with, and then start maybe listening to you with new leadership and new minds and new thinking and whatever else going forward to present the 5-year contract or your 5-year plan and all that other stuff?
I don't believe it's a good idea right now. There's several reasons. Several of them I'd rather not state publicly. I've had some feelings.
I'd rather hear his questions. And
okay. He was asking about should the board look at doing a 1-year contract with both sides have talked about a freeze for the first year. Should they go ahead and do that, and then when the new board comes in, start looking at me talking to them about this 5-year plan and some of the different other stuff and stuff. So the board's going to start looking at some of that. I don't think doing that is feasible there's several reasons, but one main reason is you've got a new board coming in. they'll have to go back, review everything that's been done historically to look through all of this, where the current board kind of already knows that. I believe a longer contract now is better than a short-term contract because it gives them more time. I think if you go right back into negotiations as soon as the new board comes on, you're setting the new board up as well for another contentious area, another contentious meeting when they don't even know everything that's happening in the district and stuff yet, and they've got to come up to speed.
I was just wondering how, because with the thinking and everything else like that, whatever, you don't go to a longer term contract, because I think that would be beneficial.
It would be.
Beneficial where you had maybe freezes or whatever first couple of years and started not to pay attention.
Yeah, it ends a lot of the contentiousness and stuff by going to a longer term contract. Oh, Jim, did you have a question before you leave? I saw you were heading your hand up. I wanted to make sure before you left here.
My question, and this might be something I'll talk about already, but has there been some comparison of surrounding district salaries as opposed to?
Yeah, I know the union has done some comparison. It's on their Facebook page. District 46 is not the lowest, but it's not the highest. So it's somewhere in there. I haven't looked at all of it,
Pretty interesting there. I mean, Libertyville on one side, Round Lake. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
disparity between.
And then you've got Lake Forest, which are the highest paid teachers in the entire state, I think, pretty much now.
Yeah,
So,
talking about surrounding.
but surrounding areas, yeah, we're not the lowest, but we're not the highest either. So,
Be careful of that too, because when you got the other districts say, well, look at Grayslake, they just got a raise.
Yep.
And there's a never ending.
exactly, it does that.
Supply and demand. And right now, I think if we ask, if no teachers have a job right now, what could we come in and ask them to hire them for? I think everybody could agree it's a lot less than they're getting paid right now. So is their salary fair to what's out there, the supply and demand? Because we all work in the private district, and that's what supply and demand works for.
Right, and realistically, right now, the best we can do is what's the money the district has and what can they afford? It's not even what the market is right now, period. It's how much money the district doesn't have. And that's really becomes the issue. It's not about the market right now. It's all about what the district has right now. Unfortunately, that's what it's become.
I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure that hadn't been much of an issue so far with you guys as far as.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Any other questions? I think there was one back in the back. Bob, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask you, out of the board members that are listed here, are any of them on the ballot for re-election? And is it a contested election?
None of these are running for re-election. Ray Millington, Keith Saros, Mike Carbone, and Karen Weinert are the 4 board members that will be leaving after the April election. There are 5 people running for those 4 seats. So yes, it is a contested election. So you'll have 4 new board members come the first meeting in May. So I'd advise everybody to get out there and find out who these board members are and talk to them. They were invited to both Wednesday night meeting and the meeting tonight. I think part of them feel it was going to be too contentious to be here, so they didn't want to come. I wish they would show up because they're running for board. They want to represent everybody here. They should be willing to come, stand up, and answer questions.
Now, I know some of those board members, not some, I know for sure one, is pension.
Yes. Yes, Kip Evans is a retired teacher from Round Lake.
I'm talking about the new ones.
Oh, the new ones? Okay, I don't know which I haven't asked. I haven't talked to them about any issues yet, except for one of them I've discussed a few issues with. He was more interested in my background and how I got started and stuff in the district first. So, but I'll be having discussions with them. Yeah, I didn't know one of them even receives my pension right now.
Yeah, I don't know, younger, he's a fireman.
Okay,
He
gotcha.
will, I think he told me he had a retirement in 4 years. 4 years,
Okay.
so, that's what he told me.
Right.
So I would like your insight on that down the road. I mean,
Yes, I will actually be sending survey questions to all of the candidates, and if they respond, I will make that public, and I will make it public if they don't respond. So, I mean, that's what For Our Children's Future we're going to do. We're going to be doing that in multiple districts across the entire state. Actually, we did a FOIA. We're going to look at all the contested races across the state and try to provide that information for people so they can know a little bit more about their school board candidates before they go and vote. Bob?
Did the superintendent just get a new salary or a new contract?
No, they have brought her contract up for renewal twice. It has been a 3-3 tie for both of them. So It will get brought up again. They are trying to extend her contract, so they won't vote on it until after the strike is over now. But yes, it's going to come up. They're going to try to extend her contract.
How does it become a tie for your son?
One of them has been absent both times. Same person at that.
I have a question about the strike and the makeup time. I heard they tacking on to the end of the summer. I heard that possibly it's a vote to this, I would hope this is that, is there a vote, if we don't want to take possibly the teachers will lose their salary for those times. Is that possible?
It's possible, but they have a minimum required amount of days that the kids have to go to school. So they 177, so that they will make up those days. Some of it will be able to be made up during the year probably on some of the teachers' work days. They'll cancel some of those and make those school days. They'll do different things, but that's all part of the negotiations. They'll figure that out. The one other additional thing that hasn't been brought up though is the district brought back a lot of the special education kids back into the district. They're now sitting at home with no services and stuff because the teachers are on strike. If they had stayed at CEDAL, the Lake County for CEDAL, they would all be going to classes and getting services and stuff right now that they're not getting right now. So the special needs kids are actually probably getting hurt right now worse than all the other children are right now. And that was something the district brought in, and my understanding is they didn't save any money by doing that. It was just, it's more staff now. But they didn't save any money, and it's causing a problem now for those special education kids. Right here first, and then I'll come back to.
So if they can't come to agreement anytime soon, are they going to bring in subs? Because my daughter is in the special ed class, and it's I'm learning, and then transition should come for a long time.
They have been taking application for substitute teachers. My guess is unless the strike goes on a long time, they probably will not bring in subs. And the reason will most likely be that they won't get enough applications by subs because the subs, if they apply and they cross the picket line, they will be blacklisted and will never be able to get a permanent teaching job later on. And I've seen that happen in other districts and stuff as well. My guess is they won't. My guess is the way the strike is going right now and the posturing going on, I don't believe there will be school this entire week unless they come to some type of compromise for a one-year freeze, and I don't see that as a really viable option right now because of the dynamics going forward. You're just going to have another contentious next year, and I don't know. We'll see, but my guess is that strike is going to go at least another week.
So that's a perfect lead-in because I was asking a question about subs. And then my next question is, and I've heard that, and I actually have friends that are subs that said just what your point is. That if I will be blacklisted. So my question is, is that because of the union or the teachers? But then to me, if the school district's asking for a sub that's in the area, I think there should be a double side. Why isn't there? If they say they're not going to cross that line because of the relationship with our teachers, the district should say, well, then you won't be on our list either. So I think there should be a two-side that, they're worried about because of the relationships with the teachers that may be calling them when they're sick. I think the district should say, we ask you to come in. Because our kids, you're right, the whole point is our kids are not in school.
Right.
And they're not getting, and they're, maybe a fun for a day, but my daughter's not very happy about, missing school. So this whole point of subs, to me, sounds a good point, because it almost seems like we're in a headlock. As our kids aren't in school, it's pushing to make a negotiation or a solution that isn't going to be good by some of the things you've read. So
Right. I hadn't thought about that. Actually, that'd probably be a suggestion you want to send to the board and see what their thoughts are on it. I hadn't even considered that angle of that. So I would do that. And I would say, if your kids are tired, want to get back to school, like that one person that took their kids to school with signs, I want to learn. Have the kids email the board and tell the board. Have the kids email the union president and tell them, we want to go back to school. Get this resolved. Get this over with. That's what it's going to take is public pressure on both the board and the union to get this resolved. Because right now, it doesn't seem like they're moving a whole lot anymore. And from the numbers, it looks like the board really has gone as far as they can without starting to really increase class sizes more than what's going to happen because of their budget spending already. So there's a problem, and I don't know why the first question I'd ask the union president is, why are they arguing for higher class sizes? Because that's what they're doing.
So why would a teacher get blacklisted if they go in and stuff? Maybe that's just what I don't understand. I like the other side of it, but I don't understand, why would they get blacklisted from any other teaching job in the state or the district?
Could be both, depending on how strong the union is. Grayslake has a very strong union, so any school district that probably has the similar union is going to be difficult for them to get a job. Their name's going to be going around and make it very difficult for them because the union wants solidarity. They don't want people bucking their authority and their system, and that becomes the problem with that, the blacklisting. It's intimidation to keep people in line to support them regardless of how they actually feel, and it's wrong. People should be free to do what they want. They shouldn't be forced to pay to have a job, and so it's a problem, but it's the system we have right now in Illinois. It's one of the reasons I actually advocate that I don't believe teachers should have the right to strike except in very egregious situations. It's like, police and firemen, they provide a valuable service. They should be there every day. There's no reason, there's nothing right now, no reason for them to be strike. There's no working conditions that are a problem right now. Why can't they just continue to negotiate and continue to work through this while they're still teaching? I don't understand that at all.
My final clarification, who hires, the union or the district?
The district actually does the hiring, but the union will see every name that goes through.
Okay, thanks.
Just a little bit about kids. If anybody's looking for something to do with their kids, being a homeschool mom, do unit studies. Take this opportunity to go take a trip someplace that maybe normally you wouldn't, and have your kids write reports on them. All kinds of things that you can do related to unit studies. They're really cool, and the kids usually have a really good time.
Yeah, I saw a group actually going down to the Lego Discovery in Wood Streets of Woodfield a couple of days ago. So there's lots of things you can do. Yes, it's a hassle because there's kids, two families with two parents working. It's very hard on a lot of parents right now. I mean, absolutely.
Lennie, is there any way tomorrow that you can get some organized for us to be here about the school? Is that I'm trying with some friends.
I will be at the school tomorrow. I will be at Park School myself tomorrow afternoon and be doing some videotaping and stuff myself. I will be there. I mean, I know there's some teachers that don't like me, but I'm going anyway. I'm going anyway because I know I'm fighting for the kids. And I'm fighting for the younger teachers who are going to get laid off. I mean, that's one of those things we talked about Wednesday night. There's another school board member used to talk about his negotiations. Whenever the teachers were talking about how much they wanted and stuff, he's like, okay, fine. This is how many teachers we're going to have to lay off because of your proposal. Give us the names of every teacher that's going to get laid off so we can tell them now so they know they're going to get laid off. I mean, it's a fact. That's what's going to happen. But the union doesn't want to do that because they don't want the teachers. I mean, most of the teachers, actually, some of them are going to know. The ones at the bottom are the ones that are going to be getting laid off. But yeah, if anybody wants to meet, I'm planning on being at Park School tomorrow by probably about 4:45. So that's over in Round Lake. So I'm planning on being there by 4:45 if anybody wants to come.
And my biggest thing is we don't have the money. When I write to the board, I tell them to stay strong. I mean, I'm ready for my daughter to get out of school for a long time. I'm sorry, I know it's not good, but we can't give in. We don't have the money.
Right, it does. The facts, the numbers prove we don't have the district flat out doesn't have the money. Yeah, they screwed up too, but they don't have the money now, and the union needs to come to the table, and we need to work together to fix this going forward, which really is year 3 and year 4 before the district really starts to have some money again, and that becomes the problem.
As the mention of the school closing been mentioned before, I just noticed that it was just mentioned a couple days ago on the district website. Has that been an issue in the past couple of years, or is that just a scare tactic?
It came up in the fall when they were doing their budgeting because of their deficit spending. It started to come up then, and it's been getting more serious as they move forward because they've gone back and looked at the projections on the number of kids, and it's decreasing every year now and has been decreasing for several years. So it started last fall. They started talking about this. Realistically, they should have looked at how to close a school when they built Park. I gave that suggestion was, why don't you build Park out to the maximum 1,400 instead of the 1,000 like they did, and then you were able to really easily close a school. They wouldn't even consider it. And now they're there, as soon as the economy tanked, this should have been on the forefront of their mind. As soon as the economy started tanking and all these new subdivisions that were going to come in weren't coming in. It was inevitable that it was coming. So I don't know when officially, publicly, they started talking about it, I know, last fall during their budgeting. I don't know before that if they started talking about it.
And also, I did read on Grayslake Patch, there was mention of people going to Carbone's house. I would really prefer that not happen.
Yes.
I live in his neighborhood, and I don't want my kids seeing angry parents in front of his home.
No, that's exactly right. I think you missed earlier, I said the same thing. We need to stop that. Actually, I guess Shannon Smigelski, somebody spit on her the other day too, and it's wrong. Both sides need to stop. It needs to be talked. We need to be able to sit down and talk to each other.
I actually like Carbone to running now.
Tell him.
However anybody feels about him, I just don't want my kids, they're 5 and 7. I want this to be a positive environment for them. So far it has been. I don't want to see them angry, have them see angry parents.
People that go to Carbone's house.
It's the first I'd heard about that, so I'll find out.
And I have voted for him.
Yes. Well,
He's been the one, he has been fighting for lower taxes. He's been the one been fighting for some of these exact same cuts since he's been on the board. It's been ignored. Like I said, there's a political agenda going on the board. Well, from the administration, I believe it comes more from the administration right now, but through some board members, and it's a problem that even with the new board, I don't believe it's going to totally be solved because we have the same administrators and the same staff that are there. I don't think it's going to completely get solved no matter who's on that board right now. I think there's some longer term problems we have to deal with, which is one of the other reasons why I don't think a 1-year contract right now is a good idea, because it doesn't allow anything else to get fixed. We just start right back over again with the same situation again, and which doesn't benefit the district.
And I just saw with new mines and whatever else. What is the likelihood of Ellen Corral getting her contract? And they talked about any replacement, what would be?
They have not talked about any replacement. They have to do, if they're going to not renew her contract, they have to do it before March 1st. Or it's automatically renewed for 1 more year. My take, the likelihood of her getting her contract renewed at least for 1 more year is very good, because she's got the board majority that continues to support her whatever she wants. They've been doing. The same ones that have been spending us into bankruptcy are the same ones still supporting her. I'd say the likelihood is she will get her contract renewed, even though I think at this point it's time to move on to somebody else. Just look at her hiring practices. With friends and family, the ex-board members that are now working in the district, with 5 or 6 business managers now over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, you got the one now that's walking up to the public answering questions that can't even tell you the truth to the public right now. And the numbers keep changing. I know they keep revising stuff, but I've seen the same thing over time. I don't believe she's up for this position right now, especially given the financial situation we're in. She's new, she's young. I don't think she's ready for this, for what we're doing right now.
Well, they can still continue their board meetings, like when they have one for Wednesday,
No, board meetings are canceled until the strike is over. So I did find that I did ask that question. There will be no more board meetings until the strike is resolved. There'll be just closed session negotiations until that time.
Lennie, I think the question to ask everyone here, because our school boards are so very important. How many of you take the time to vet who are running for the school board? How many of you have actually sat down with them on a one-to-one meeting for an hour and asked them who they are, who they represent, what their qualifications are to serve on the board? Are they there for themselves, or are they there to protect your children and your benefits and you as taxpayers? So in this election, with all these seats available, would you rather have a Michael Carbone and a Lennie Jarratt on your school board to fight for you? Or would you take someone on the outside that you don't know, that you haven't vetted, that you don't know what their backgrounds are? Now, yes, the other people are on the petitions, but you know what, if you want a Lennie Jarratt or you want a Michael Carbone, you work in your neighborhoods and you get that write-in vote going. I want a write-in candidate that is going to represent me and my family to the best of their ability compared to the other candidates. So if everybody works in your neighborhoods and your businesses
Email him.
and your groups, you all belong to groups, you've got PTAs, you've got business associations, you've got everything, you get it going.
Unfortunately, we have 2 neighbors that work in the district, teachers.
But that's
Well,
what you do.
yes.
If this is the quality of person that you want sitting on your school board, you will get to work and you will get out there, you will get it in the newspapers, you will do this. Let's do a write-in campaign, let's get the job done for the best person we can get.
Let's please try to persuade Mr. Republicans, please.
Yes, she's right. You've got to start asking the candidates questions. Talk to them. I plan on sitting down with all 5 of them and asking them questions, talking to them. Besides doing the survey, I'm going to sit down and talk to every one of them, and I hope every one of them is willing to work with me. And